What is up, everyone? So in this video, I'll be breaking down the Broken Mask incident. What exactly caused Mr. Carter to gun down those people? So what caused the Broken Mask incident? Let's start by summarizing the key details of what took place on that fateful day in Diamond City. About 60 years before the events of Fallout 4 in year 2229, the structure that's now Power Noodles used to be a bar run by a man named Henry. This man was quite possibly Henry Cook's father, but that's not confirmed. Sometime in May, a man that called himself Mr. Carter arrived in Diamond City and made friends with the locals. He said he was from somewhere out west, but didn't get very specific. That evening, a group including Mr. Carter, Eustace Hawthorne, and Dr. Chambers' parents were having a nice time at Henry's bar. Mr. Carter was apparently the life of the party. He was cracking jokes and telling them all sorts of stories about his journeys outside of the small world of Diamond City. In about 3 hours, Mr. Carter had gotten tipsy after about 5 drinks, then his smile suddenly faded and his cheek started twitching. He then reached into his coat, took out a revolver, and shot Henry in the head. His cheek continued to twitch as he skillfully gunned down more people, including the Chamberses. The guards eventually killed him, and the spectators were shocked to see plastic and metal parts showing on his corpse, revealing that Mr. Carter was in fact a synth. This event is symbolically called the Broken Mask Incident, 1 because of Mr. Carter's cover being blown, and 2 because it's when the Institute's veil of discrepancy was lifted. Prior to all this, the people of the Commonwealth did know that the Institute existed because at that time they did have some level of contact with the outside world. This is confirmed by things like Nick Valentine's dialogue and director's recording number 52. So it was common knowledge that the Institute existed and was capable of making androids, like Gem 1 Sims per se, but no one outside the Institute had any idea that they were capable of making Sims that were indistinguishable from humans. Then Mr. Carter went down, and the people of the Commonwealth learned the truth. The Institute was making Sims that were indistinguishable from humans, and they were covertly distributing these Sims into the population. Within the director's quarters of the Institute, there lies a holotape in an old box called recording number 108. Let's take a listen.
Damn it, Galton, what the hell is going on down there? I have to convene an emergency directorate meeting because of this screw-up. That synth was a prototype. It was absolutely not ready for field testing. The mess it caused in Diamond City threatens decades of work to keep us out of the spotlight. I will be very clear. My legacy as director will not be tarnished by your division's mistakes. I am going to find out exactly who approved any sort of operation above ground, and that person will be held fully accountable.
From this recording, we can gather that the director of the Institute at the time of the incident thought Mr. Carter had been prematurely field tested and that he malfunctioned. That could be true, but there may be more to it than that. Our question for this video is, why did Mr. Carter do it? What caused him to go on this killing spree in Diamond City? Let's discuss 3 possible causes of the Broken Mask incident. First, the director seems fairly certain of what exact synth it was, but maybe she's mistaken. Perhaps Mr. Carter was not an Institute synth at all, but was actually produced by another technology superpower that wanted to use him to harm the Institute's reputation. After all, Sims aren't really an original idea, are they? Lots of sci-fi plays with the concept, and if anyone's looking for a major mind blow right now, there is someone named Sophia who's essentially a Nick Valentine level sim, and she even has citizenship. So maybe the Institute has some sort of tech rival out there somewhere that's also capable of making Sims that used Mr. Carter to turn the Commonwealth against the Institute. Who might that rival be? I have a few candidates. Perhaps the Enclave wanted to pin the Commonwealth against the Institute in attempts to take out an organization that had potential to technologically surpass them. President Eden could have feared that the Institute could use Sims to infiltrate in their ranks, which they may have done to the Brotherhood of Steel with Paladin Dance. Another likely suspect is Vault Tech. Perhaps somewhere out west there's a vault with a primary directive of making Sims. One of the things that I think the Bethesda writers really just missed in Fallout 4 was not really referencing Vault Tech at all within the Institute. I mean, the Institute is really a knockoff Vault, isn't it? Yet no one in here has any interest in the company that did all this before the war. So maybe Vault Tech is wrapped up in this somehow. Could be that the whole origin of the Institute with the basement of CIT and all that was really just a Vault-Tec experiment. Dr. Braun could have been like, let's leave a bunch of building materials in the basement of this technical institute and we'll see if the survivors build something like a vault. Which they did. Then maybe Vault-Tec caused the broken mask incident to keep the institute underground and keep the experiment going rather than letting them branch out into the surface where they can't be monitored. Now this next candidate is a bit funky, but when it comes to Bethesda, you always have to consider that the whole thing might be a joke. So what joke might Bethesda be telling here? Well, for those who don't know, CIT, the fictional school that became the Institute after the war, is based on the real school MIT. They're both known for tech, and they're pretty much in the same spot within Cambridge. MIT's main rival is Caltech in California, aka out west. So it could be that Bethesda is playing with the rivalry between MIT and Caltech here. Their idea could be that another institute formed underneath Fallout's fictional Caltech and used Mr. Carter to sabotage CIT's institute. This is the kind of thing they might go for, especially if they have MIT alumni in their staff. I'm not aware of any Bethesda employees that went to MIT, but it's possible that they have a few. Last suspect for this idea is that it could have been an internal sabotage. Perhaps certain individuals within the Institute didn't like the idea of interacting with the surface and intentionally used Mr. Carter to burn that bridge. This idea would also explain the similar event known as the CPG massacre. Could be that someone in the Institute intentionally caused both events in order to force the organization to stay underground. Why? Well, they could simply think that no good can come from interacting with the nuclear reality that is the surface world. Perhaps they feared that the people on the surface would try to destroy the Institute, which ends up being a valid fear. I mean, everyone in the Commonwealth during Fallout 4 wants to destroy the Institute. The common philosophy among the Institute at the time of Fallout 4 is that humanity's future and best hope for survival is underground. They think that the surface and the people on it are corrupted beyond hope. Hence, maybe someone within the Institute caused the broken mask incident to bring about that philosophy. Recording number 108 mentions someone named Galton. Maybe that's our culprit. So all of these candidates for this potential sabotage idea have the same problem, there's just no evidence for them. I'm just speculating based on the assumption that a technology rival might want the Institute to fail. Bethesda leaves clues, and there just don't seem to be many clues for this idea, which is why I find the next two ideas a bit more likely. Now let's talk about the possibility that this was unintentional. Maybe Mr. Carter was preemptively approved for field testing and he did just suffer some sort of technical error, resulting in him becoming hostile. It could be that simple. However, I think the truth is more complex than that. What if Mr. Carter was not in Diamond City on Institute business at all because he was actually an escaped synth? And he malfunctioned due to complications from his mind wipe, thus killing those people. We know that mind wipes are risky, and Mr. Carter's may have been the first one ever done. Also, we're fairly certain that Sims have escaped the Institute independently of Liam Benet's operation, since he would have been a kid when Harkness escaped. So how else have Sims escaped? Well, I think I may have actually found another leak within the Institute, the Bioscience Division. Clayton Holdren, Isaac Carlin, and the Volkerts all have a curious item hidden in each of their rooms. They all have Joy and the Railroad holotapes hidden in trash cans beneath their sinks. Carlin also has a second one in a dresser. If these tapes were just scattered around the Institute, then I wouldn't think anything of it, but free in the same spot within quarters of all bioscience employees, that's not a coincidence. Bethesda is hinting something to us here. The way they're in these trash cans suggests that these people have agreed to keep them hidden in this specific spot. So is there some sort of conspiracy among the Bioscience Division to help Sims escape? It's very possible. If the player destroys the Institute, then they'll end up going through this old robotics lab that connects the top floor to the bioscience lab. When I was investigating, it occurred to me, this would make a really good escape route, wouldn't it? I mean, if it can be used to break in, then why not out? Upon reaching the top, you'd have options. You could either use the relay, or you could go out this pipe that's used if you choose to invade with the Minutemen. So to summarize, what I'm thinking here is that maybe there's a secret organization within the Bioscience Division that's existed for a long time and has been helping Sims escape since maybe 2220. They could even be the founders of the railroad. It's not confirmed when exactly the railroad was first formed, but it's possible that they existed prior to the Broken Mask incident. Could be that it wasn't always known as the railroad, and that the railroad that we know now started as a splinter group of this bioscience conspiracy. Maybe some of the bioscientists went rogue and eventually started this operation of helping Sims escape, but then the exterior part became known as the railroad after a few years. Now let's get back to Mr. Carter. Really, this theory functions fine with or without this bioscience conspiracy, just thought I'd throw it in there because this may be how he escaped if this theory is right. So what if the railroad helped Mr. Carter escape the Institute, mind-wiped him but screwed something up, and is therefore partially responsible for the Broken Mask incident? It would really suit Bethesda's writing style. Bethesda intends for the Institute, the railroad, and the Brotherhood of Steel to all be flawed in Fallout 4. Really, they intend the Minutemen as the only faction without any idealistic flaw. To summarize, it's possible that the railroad helped Mr. Carter escape, but botched his mind wipe and is thus partially responsible for the Broken Mask incident. It would be very fitting given Bethesda's writing style in creating Fallout 4. There's one more possibility I want to talk about. It also assumes that Mr. Carter malfunctioned, but this one doesn't necessarily involve the railroad, though it can. It's not mutually exclusive with the other idea. So when I started making this video, I actually had this as my least likely possibility, but as I kept investigating, I found that the details really shine best upon this one, so here it is. Let's go over a few of these details again. Mr. Carter claims to be from somewhere out west. He took a revolver out of his coat and rather skillfully killed a few people. This sounds an awful lot like Kellogg, doesn't it? So what I'm thinking here is that Mr. Carter was actually a synthetic Kellogg, rather than the usual synthetic Sean Gen 3 model. Sean was taken from Vault 111 sometime in 2227, but the Institute must have been experimenting with humanoid Sims before that, because how else would they have known that they needed better test subjects? So what DNA would they have been using prior to Sean's DNA? The likely answer is Kellogg's DNA. After all, his cybernetics tell us that they did use him for experiments. So I think that Mr. Carter was a synth that was created before Sean's capture, whose base genome was Kellogg's DNA. But I bet they went a step further as well. The Institute used a real consciousness to make Nick Valentine, but why assume they only did this once? I think that they found a way to copy Kellogg's consciousness and put it into a humanoid synth that was made with his DNA, and that synth was Mr. Carter. If some pre-war lab could copy Nick Valentine's minds, then I think it's more than likely that the Institute could copy Kellogg's mind. In addition to Nick Valentine, the quest Dangerous Minds also suggests that this idea is technologically possible in Fallout canon. Dr. Amari plugs the cybernetic parts of Kellogg's brain into Nick and uses the memory loungers to let the player enter Kellogg's mind. Afterward, Nick Valentine speaks as Kellogg for a split second. Perhaps this is Bethesda giving a subtle hint that Kellogg's mind can be cloned and uploaded into a synth. I mean, really this whole quest is showing us that this is possible. Even without Kellogg's brain plugged in, Nick still has some remnant of him for a second there. There's a holotape hidden in the Institute called Implant Update Session Number 7, which is a recording of one of Kellogg's implants being replaced. This tells us that there are multiple versions and copies of these implants. With all this in mind, it seems like they probably were capable of making copies of Kellogg's brain. Hence, they probably could copy his consciousness and place it into synths, just like they did with Nick Valentine. So I think that Mr. Carter's base genome was Kellogg and that he had some remnant of Kellogg's mind. So what caused him to kill those people in Diamond City? During Implant Update Session 7, Kellogg experiences what the doctor calls a calibration error, resulting in everything appearing purple. Perhaps Mr. Carter experienced a similar error, which may have been caused by alcohol consumption. Or it could have been some issue with Kellogg's DNA caused by radiation exposure throughout his life. Remember, the Institute needed Sean because they needed DNA that was unaltered by radiation. Whatever the case, it caused him to open fire on the people he was drinking with. So that's my best guess, folks. That's what I think caused the Broken Mask incident. It's what makes the most sense based on the details that Bethesda chose to give us, like Mr. Carter saying he's from out west and making effective use of a revolver, server and showing us that real minds can be placed into synths. It all connects nicely with this explanation. So thank you for watching, please subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you next time.